Welcome to Journey Unto You. My name is Lorraine and I am your host. On this platform, we will explore all things autism and other subjects and needs within the community. I have shared my own journey and how it all got started. I hope to encourage you and strengthen and build you up, and even get some questions answered. This platform is for anyone who has had autism on their path. So get comfortable, take a deep breath, and just listen in. There is hope. Welcome to Journey Unto You. My name is Lorraine and I am your host. Today I wanted to share something that's new and recent and I think needs to be shared as a parent of an autistic adult who has other diagnoses as well. But this is something that we as parents, there are medical issues that come up as they grow and change and have different seasons. So just a little context. I have always raised my children to eat pretty healthy. I was not a parent who bought junk cereal or Pop-Tarts or different things like that for breakfast. We didn't eat a lot of processed foods. It doesn't mean that I didn't have some treats or snacks in the house, because I did. We certainly had chips and cookies and things, but a lot of times I made cookies. I was home and able to do those things. But as I've shared with you all before, when my son got a little older and we started having a lot of high behaviors where we needed to obtain resources within the community, when we did eventually have him placed in a therapeutic home, during that time he had a huge growth spurt, and it was a kind of a trip actually to see how much he grew when he was away from us. But he was always very thin and kind of a picky eater. He had some sensory things, which is very common to our kiddos who have autism. Some of them only will eat certain foods. Some of them have an aversion to certain foods. Some of them are not great eaters at all because of texture or taste, or sometimes they can't even tell us. So my son was no different in that. But there were things that he would eat. And so he did eat broccoli. He did eat cauliflower. He liked bananas and mandarins. Sometimes I could get him to eat sliced apples. But for the most part, I could get him to eat some healthier things. Again, I was not a home that bought, a lot of processed stuff. So he wasn't raised that way. But when he went into the therapeutic home, it was quite different than our house. So he was introduced to frozen burritos, and every day it was ice cream and ice cream sandwiches. And, it was just a whole different way of eating. And this therapeutic home, let me just say that I'm not picking on them, because they were amazing. They were so kind to us, and they knew how traumatic it was for us to place our son there, and just phenomenal and just very kind people. And so I don't want this to come across as though I'm being critical, but his diet drastically changed and my son began to gain a lot of weight. And since that time, I think he was 12 or 13, 13. Maybe he was 13 when we put him in the therapeutic home, maybe 14, somewhere in there. And I apologize for not remembering completely, but it was somewhere in that vicinity. But since then, I have not ever been able to get him back on track. During those years, he would come home for visits and whatnot, and he loves hummus with pork wraps. He would go back a little bit to how, we ate because he didn't really have any other choices if he was staying with me. He certainly was not getting frozen burritos. And so, but it was still a challenge. Portion control became an issue, and he was eating a lot more fast food and, just having options because when he was in therapeutic care, that's just what they allowed. So I had to kind of give up control in that area. So I wanted to give you context to speeding forward that once he became an adult and he was able to make his own choices and living at home just wasn't going to be an option anymore, and he did go into adult living, supported living. Again, he was able to make his own choices, and he had his own money to do that with. So yeah, I lost control a long time ago. And now we are in a place. So as I've shared with you all before, my son's very tall. He is 6'4" and a really big guy. When he would come home to visit with me, I would always take him shopping, and we would go to the big and tall section. But we were at a place that not only were we at big and tall, but we were at the 4X big and tall. And so we have tried to work with him before. We did try to get a nutritionist on board many years ago, but that didn't work. Again, he wasn't in my care, so my control was limited to a large degree. But now my son was able to go to YMCA, and he did start losing a little bit of weight there for a while and was making some healthy choices. But now we've gotten back into some poor eating habits again. And so recently at his doctor's appointment, we got the news that he is pre-diabetic, but I'm glad that it's not diabetic. So we can put in place some precautions now. And I have spoken with him several times about this. He doesn't like it. He does. My son really likes having his autonomy. And in fact, to the point that that has been a huge trigger over the years and sometimes would cause very high behaviors before we thoroughly got him into supported living. So that is something that is important to him. But at the same time, there's a reason that his dad and I are his guardians. So we have been talking about that with him. And the reason I wanted to share this newly diagnosis with him where he's at right now is we are talking with him about changing his eating habits and the foods that he craves. And we are having him see a nutritionist again with the help of the staff that he works with 24 hours a day that are in the home. And so we are going to have to create a diet plan and a meal plan and get him kind of back on track and to where he's eating healthy again because he loves, like a lot of people, nuggets and pizza and all the things. And we can have those things, but sometimes we have to change the way we're making those things. If you're someone who eats meat, some people don't eat meat. My son is definitely a meat eater. And so I'm grateful that I get to be a part of getting those meal plans out there for him and creating some alternatives. One of the things that he does do is he drinks soda, which is completely horrible for you and for our children and children altogether. Was not raised on soda. That's just not something that we had in our house. It was definitely an occasional treat. And so we've had to talk with him about that. But I also wanted to share not only my own story because this is a new thing for us. This is when you become a parent of a child with needs, you're going to go through so many seasons and changes and oh, this is a new thing. That's something that they liked for years and now they don't like it at all. And some things never change at all. I mean, it could be a plethora of different situations. And but I wanted to to be transparent about that because this is something that even working in the field that I have seen be a real thing. Most of the children, the majority of the children that I have been exposed to and have been around, and so again, I want to share my own experience, do not eat healthy. They definitely eat a lot of processed foods. And it doesn't seem to matter culturally with our children either. I've seen parents send their children in with cookies for breakfast and French toast sticks. I've seen gummies being sent in the morning. I've seen, and this is if I've been in clinic, Dunkin' hash browns from Dunkin' Donuts. I mean, just, and this is an everyday diet. I worked with a client that literally got Chick-fil-A sent every single day in their lunch in clinic. It was chicken nuggets and hash browns. That was the diet. And we were all very concerned because that's not good growth food. And in fact, most of the food that I see is not. I've seen children be on vegan diets where they're probably not getting enough nutrition for their growth. I've seen children that culturally their parents send in what their culture eats, and it is healthy, but you can't get the child to eat it. So I've seen a lot of things across the board, but for the most part, a lot of processed, high in bad carb foods and a lot of dyes. And it bothers me because we're not setting our children up for success. When my son was going through his younger years and he was sensory sensitive to certain foods and different things, and he did have a limited diet, I didn't, because I wasn't raised that way myself and because I just didn't run my house like that, I didn't give him other options. It just wasn't even on my radar. I didn't think to myself, oh, well, he won't eat a tuna sandwich, so maybe I'll give him, you know, some Jiffy peanut butter and some Welch's grape jelly, which is loaded with corn syrup. I didn't even think like that. I just thought he isn't eating what I'm giving him. Oh well, he's just not going to eat because I felt like he will eat if he's hungry. And most children will. They will eventually eat what you've given them. And so, that's old school. I know for a lot of parents nowadays, that's just way too harsh. That is something also I'm seeing within a lot of arenas is parents are, they're just, I hate to say it this way, but a lot of parents just don't have the strength to parent the way a lot of children need to be parented now. And I know there's layers for that. So I say that with compassion, but I also say that with a little bit of conviction because I think that we give our children too many choices. And sometimes it's just this is what it is and this is the option. And there aren't any other choices. And so that's where my son is at now because he himself made choices that were not good. And we've talked to him about this. And it's hard when our children have special needs because everything for them is a little bit harder. So I don't want my son to get into his 30s and have to deal with diabetes and the whole thing that comes with that because diabetes can be reversed. If you change your diet, if you get serious about your body and start loving on yourself, you can reverse diabetes. So I want to try to help him have as much success as possible, but yet at the same time, keeping his autonomy with his own choices and, just making some different choices. And I really feel confident it's going to work out. It may not be easy at first because I think that when we're used to eating processed foods and these foods with a lot of sugar, getting off sugar is statistically as bad as coming off of heroin. And if you've done your research at all, it is very difficult to kill sugar cravings. And processed foods are just, there's just not real food and your body will go through some type of withdrawals because of cravings that it's gotten used to, but it can be done. And I really believe that we as a team will be able to help him get to a healthier place with his weight and feeling better and getting back to the exercising at YMCA and just making some different choices. It doesn't mean that you can't have some treats here and there. And it's just picking and choosing, portion control, what treats we're choosing and when we're choosing them. And so I just want to really encourage parents to just, if you're looking at your child's diet and they're really small and they won't eat anything but popcorn, popcorn's probably not the worst thing in the world. But a way of looking at it is like maybe don't buy microwave popcorn, maybe actually pop it yourself and put your own butter on it and your own salt, as opposed to sticking it in the microwave where it's just going to get completely radiated, or bagged popcorn, which is just as horrible as well. So that's what I'm trying to communicate, just because I use the word popcorn or that example is because I knew a child many years ago who that's all he would eat. And so, you know, they do go through these little phases when they are on the spectrum. Children who are atypical developing go through some of these little phases. But just as parents, sometimes just not taking the high road out, sometimes saying, you know what, I know you love your gummies, but I don't know, just maybe taking the time to see about making your own. It's not that hard. It's not that complicated. And I know that takes time and it's easier to just rip open a package and just give that to them, but it really doesn't help them, especially with all the chemicals and dyes in the foods nowadays. And again, this is not a perfect science. I've by no means perfect parented perfectly in this area, especially as they get older and they start making their own choices. It's really hard to corral. And so I want to say these things with love and with grace and with mercy, but I also want to give parents some food for thought, especially if your child's younger, you know, having them try different foods, just cutting up a little bit of avocado and having them taste it or cutting up some bananas. They might totally spit it out and be mad for a while. And I think that's hard too, because I know that when we have children, with special needs, we can be a little bit more tired than the average parent because we're dealing with a lot. And we just kind of want them to be happy and be quiet for a minute and just here's your French toast stick. But just something to consider, maybe just don't buy it and make some French toast. My grandma actually used to make her own homemade syrup. I didn't care for it as a child, but that's what I was given and I ate it, you know? And I think for some of us as parents, we do have to take some kind of ownership and say, especially when we do have control, and say, you know what, this is the choice. And they're going to get mad and probably have a complete breakdown. I've seen children get very aggressive, and that's something that we didn't allow in our home. So when my son became aggressive, it was when he was older and hormones had kind of kicked in, and it it got kiboshed real quick. So it was a season, it was hard, it was tough, and yeah, it was a safety issue. We dealt with it. But when they're real small, there shouldn't be any reason for them to have that much room to be kicking you, biting you, spitting at you. Yes, I see this every day with the field that I'm in. And so when they're small, you as a parent do have the authority to say, you can choose. Do you want apples today or bananas today? And if they say, I don't want any of it, or they freak out, then that's their choice. Because I'm telling you right now, if they're hungry, they will eat. They will eventually eat. So, and again, this isn't to come down on parents or to criticize. It's really just to give you some food for thought and how we're parenting and what we're feeding our children. McDonald's is not good for our children. Burger King, Chick-fil-A, Bojangles, all these places, it's an occasional once in a while treat. No big deal, but daily is not good for our children. And so just some things to think about, and where our children are going and the health issues that are just going to be a little tougher for them. It's setting them up for success and their future and giving them the ability to make healthy choices so that, they, as adults, will make good choices that are healthy for them with still giving them the power to choose. And so here we are as parents of an adult son who is on the spectrum. We're having to walk this out with him, but I'm really confident we're going to get through it and he's going to do really well. And he has a great team of people. And so I just wanted to share that with you and encourage you to just, if you're feeling, like, gosh, I wish my child would eat more than nuggets, maybe consider making nuggets. Again, some of this stuff is time consuming, but so worth their health and the hyperactivity that I see in a lot of children and their ability to focus. It's already hard enough with the autism. And so I just want to challenge you parents to just look at it, maybe think about it, do some Google researches. There's so many tools out there now that can show you how to kind of manipulate the diet, so to speak, for our children and plan meals. So with that being said, I am on a new journey to teach my son new habits again, or having him revisit some old habits that he used to have when he was younger. And now we're going to come back to those and encourage him as to why we do eat the way we eat and how it's going to serve him well. So with that being said, thank you again for another episode of Journey Unto You. And you can do this. You are stronger than you think you are, and you're not alone. There are plenty of us parents out there who, we need support too. And just talking about it sometimes is all the support we need. And so I want to thank you for listening in, and remember that you are loved, valued, and treasured, and be blessed.
Now I've journeyed oh so far just to get right where you are. The root and the offspring of David, the bright and morning star. Though this cold road which I walk taught me to run to you, and you found me 'cause I was lost, but journey unto you. For all my battles you have fought, your word faithful and true. When it was comfort that I sought, my peace you did renew. Most of this cold road I walked, I was carried by you. Guide our talk and hearts and thoughts as we journey unto you. Jesus Christ, I thank you for all you brought me through. Help us to lead your children to journey unto you. And help us to lead all the children to journey unto you.